Welcome to Expand Your Empire, the podcast where women stop deferring wealth and start building financial power. I'm Amanda Taylor, investor, strategist, and disruptor of outdated money rules. It's time to own your worth, grow your assets, and build a legacy that lasts.
So money, we talk about it all the time. We stress about it, we chase it, we avoid it, and somehow we don't ever actually talk about what it's doing to us on the inside. Welcome back to Expand Your Empire. I know we've touched on this topic before, but today's conversation takes it to a new level. My guest, Carrie West, is the founder of the Rewritten Collection and the author of Money Rewritten, which just released yesterday. Carrie's work is built on a simple but disruptive idea. The stories we inherited about money are running the show, and most of us don't even know it. So we get into the beliefs we absorbed before we could even question them, and the emotional charge that we carry into every financial decision, and why your relationship with money might look less like a strategy problem and a lot more like a personal one. So if you've ever made a money decision from fear, from shame, from that voice that says, "Who do you think you are?" then this episode is for you. I love Carrie. I love this discussion. I love this message. And I think it's for every one of us out there, no matter where you are on your financial journey. So let's get into it. I've been excited to talk to you, A, because we haven't caught up in a long time, and B, I read the book. We've talked, I don't know how many times in between. How did we meet? Now I don't even remember. Who introduced us?
Juliet Clark.
Oh yeah. Now it's like I don't even remember how we met at this point. Okay, so a publisher or someone who helps publish books met me, heard my story and was like, "Hey, you need to meet this woman who's writing this book about money." I can't even remember what she called it. It was the wrong title. Now I remember. And as
She
soon,
was calling it finances something.
yeah,
She didn't
something
use
about finance. She didn't use the right term. And so you and I met on a Zoom and we were like, click,
click. Oh yeah. Yeah.
click.
Instant.
And so this has
Instant.
been months, I believe, in the making. So where are you with Money Rewritten, the new book? When is our release date on this?
March next Tuesday.
Okay, next Tuesday. So I got to
Yes.
drop this next week. Excellent. So you've written books. This is not your first book. You've had success in that area. Why Money Rewritten? Why was this the next one in this year?
When I did Life Rewritten, it was supposed to be the overview of when you change your main theme. I talk about themes. Themes to me are like the core belief that we hold. So in life, if your core belief is life sucks and then you die, that impacts everything. So as I was taking that all apart, I realized that, yeah, we have your main overarching belief, but then you have tiny beliefs that support all of it. And I realized that you have beliefs around money, you have beliefs around love and health and aging and parenting and family and society and politics. And I thought, what would happen? Would there be enough materials to dive into it? And to me, starting with money was a natural progression because money impacts everything. It's another one, it's like only one minor step down because it also impacts your overall life story. But money affects your health, it affects your career, it affects your relationships, it affects your self-esteem, it affects everything. So Money Rewritten seemed to be the perfect next step as I keep talking about challenging all the messages that we've been given.
Yeah. Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head with everything. And I talk all the time about how, I talk about wealth, and wealth, it to me is a full body experience. It is mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. The money piece is the physical money piece, which is not a physical thing, you and I have discussed that, that's only a tiny part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe that's what you're addressing in your book and your messaging and your courses, everything that you're doing. And that's why I think it's so important that people can separate the idea of money as a currency in which to purchase items from the entire emotional experience around it.
Yeah. Do you recall after you and I first met, I said, "Can I interview you for the book?" Do
Yeah.
you remember that?
Yeah.
And we talked a lot about what is wealth. And it's the
Mhm.
same with what is abundance. I mean, when you talk about abundance, everybody quickly goes to bank account. But you have an abundance of happiness, you have an abundance of love, you have an abundance of health. Abundance is about an accumulation of something, not only money.
Right.
Just like wealth isn't just money. You can have a wealth of knowledge, but we have in our obsession with money made money about everything. And it's like, ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. What do people, I know you've run courses based on this. I've sat in one or two of them. You've had conversations with women across the board, probably women and men. What's the number one thing that you see when people start talking about this?
How hooked in they are, how tied in they are, and how much money filters through everything in their life. And until you can set that aside and say, here's who I am as a person. Money, and you've heard me say this before, money is an exchange of value for value. It's really nothing more than that. We've let it seep through and embed and impact our thinking, our decisions, the choices we make. Even entrepreneurs, when they're making decisions, what's the big key word today? How do you monetize that?
Yes.
It's like,
I, I am a business strategist. I work inside businesses all the time and I'm working on margins and how do you make the cash flow and how it is important. Like that is how we
mm-hmm,
function as a society. That's how we survive and that is how we build monetary wealth. And there's this, I even did the episode that came out last week. This won't match the timeline of what we're speaking of when it comes out, but we can talk all the time about the making money and the being in your business. And I was talking about the systems required, like you can't step away from your business or it'll fall apart. And everybody talks about that like it's a functional problem of the business, like the systems aren't in place or you haven't got the proper SOPs or anything. But what it is in a lot of cases is your ego, unconscious maybe, that your value is tied to your effort and production and contribution to this thing that you've created. And so
mm-hmm.
therefore you cannot step away. You just talked about retreat. And that was the impetus for that episode is I was asked to go on that retreat. I've been asked to go on other retreats and I'm like, who could just walk away from their business for a week and not do anything? That's terrible
Yeah,
internally, but that's an ego thing
yeah, yeah.
that has very little to do or nothing to do with systems and money, but that's what we put it on.
And that's why our well-being is impacted. We don't take that pause. And we forget why we wanted to run our own business in the first place.
Amen to that.
So many times I have to remind myself that first and foremost, I wanted to write books. And everybody would say, well, can you do a workshop on this so you can make money? And I said, well, I'm hoping to sell my books to make money. Oh, you'll never make enough money with selling books. And it's like, really? So it seems like that, and that's the question. That's the question. How will you make money off of this? It's like, maybe I won't. Maybe I won't, and I'll be poor and destitute and in a homeless shelter. I don't know. But that's how much it's entangled our lives.
You're
Mm.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I'm thinking about the next episode that I'm already outlining about cash flow. That's a
Hmm.
thing in business
Hmm.
and how it's tied to your leadership style, let's say, in that you're doing a lot of things from emotional reactivity
Hmm.
instead of just strategy and logical
Yeah.
decision making. But that's because there's so much emotional stuff tied to money and fear and shame. And these are the exact things that you're talking about in your book. So let's go back to the book and go back to your story and that you weave that throughout the book of your personal story and how you grew up in money and then how you've seen that play out in your life. So tell a abbreviated version of your story because we want to get people to go buy the book and read the rest.
Well, I have a typical background story like so many people do. We, when you've heard me say this before, when we're born, we are a blank slate. There's nothing going on. So you are paying attention and observing, even though, you think you're crying and you just want food and a diaper, stuff is getting in. And it really gets in because of emotions. If your mom is postpartum depression, if you were born into a story that was filled with crises, those emotions stick with you. And I'm going to say something controversial, but why not?
You're in the
We
right
talk
place.
we talk about kids that are addicted to drugs that they absorb from their mother when they're in the womb. We absorb mom's emotions too, and those are chemical reactions.
100%.
Em- Emotions bring up chemical reactions, so we start getting addicted to those emotions immediately. So I had the same thing. My parents were my mom used to say I can stretch a dollar from here to the sun to sunset, and it's like, is that noble? Is that good? But when you're a kid, you just absorb that. You don't have any information to challenge it. And even if you feel like, huh? Yeah, I remember when my mom said to me, I think I was about 4 or 5, she said, money doesn't, and I said, can I get some candy? Money doesn't grow on trees. And I was always a smart ass kid anyway. So I was like, money doesn't grow anywhere. You get it from a bank. That
Yeah.
was my note, as a kid would say, you get money from a bank. Don't smart mouth me. And it's like, I never understood some of these cliches. Money is the root of all evil.
Mhm.
Why? And the truth is, that line is the love of money is the root of all evil, but it's
Exactly.
been slaughtered down to money is the root of all evil.
Mhm.
Really? I think
Yeah.
there's other things that affect evil. But as a kid, I accepted these. It fed my need to belong because when you need to belong somewhere, you want to be like everybody, right? You
Yep.
want to fit in. You don't want to be abandoned or rejected because people don't connect with you because you seem different.
Mhm.
And for years, my parents called me the black sheep, which was done with shame and to
Yep.
try to get me in line. Now I call it a badge of honor. I'm glad I didn't fit in with them. But it took me a long time to disengage some of these old emotions and feelings and nobilizing working hard and earning a paycheck. When I don't know if I put this story in when I took my first job in high school. I was a cashier at a grocery store. And they liked me so much, they wanted me to make that a career path. And I thought I was going to have anxiety and panic attacks. And my mom thought that was the greatest thing that ever
Yeah.
happened. And you got to get a stable income to protect yourself. And I know, listen, parents aren't trying to mess with you. I really believe that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
when they say to you, we don't want you to be disappointed. We just want you to know this is how the world works. And you know what, Amanda? I'm still looking for that Bible or that directory. I have all these books on my shelves, and I don't have one that says this is how the world works. This
Yeah.
is the absolute
of
Universal truth, right, of how the world works.
yeah, that's funny. I 100% agree. We're in this, or at least I am in this collective somehow of everything right now is your childhood trauma, right? Everything. Blame it on your childhood trauma. And that's fine. I can look back at my life and see things that directly correlate to emotional issues, baggage, whatever you want to call it. I'm Gen X, so I'm like, whatever, it is what it is. But it, yes, my parents did the best they could with what they had and what they knew and what was given to them from their parents. It is
Absolutely.
a generational, systemic, inherited story that gets passed down not only through actions and words and stories, but like you said, it is in your nervous system.
Yep.
It's in there.
Yep. Yep. It is. And that's the challenge. And that's why you're just reminding me I have to do a new video for my website on micro moments of change.
Yeah.
When it gets into your nervous system, we feel it. That's the beautiful thing about our bodies is they're a thermometer.
Mhm.
They're a they're the I Ching of the world. Our bodies will tell us where we are at any given moment. That is an opportunity for us to make a different decision and start rewiring that, to start cleaning out those old nervous energy patterns that, quite frankly, our brains like coherence. They like the familiar. They like doing the same things over and over and over again. That's why when you really start challenging these things, I'm working with a woman right now, and she made so many breakthroughs in my classes and in my workshop. And then all of a sudden it came crashing down on her.
Mhm.
And I said, take a breath. Take a breath and don't react. That reaction, your brain is, it's almost like a junkie getting off heroin. Your brain is saying, don't withdraw. No withdrawal symptoms here, kiddo. We're gonna come at you full force. And she's like, but everything is crumbling and falling apart. This is perfect. Can you settle? Can you just take a breath? Your brain will comply eventually, but and if you miss one time that this happens, it's not going to hurt you. Your brain's been doing this. You've been in this mode of chemical dependency for a long time. The trick is, can you take just that micro moment, like you said, just by taking a breath, you
Mhm.
interrupt the pattern. And if you can sustain that and interrupt it longer, the longer you can sustain it, and the more often and with the frequency sustain that and not respond. Hey, I got triggered the other day. Something came up, the old bank account balance, and the bank, for some reason, after they accepted my deposit, then deleted it. And I was like, what? And I was like, okay, take a breath. You're okay.
Yeah.
Took a breath, called the bank. They said, so sorry. We're so sorry. And they said, look, for your trouble, we're going to give you blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you don't have to do that.
Just fix
Just
it.
get my money back.
Yeah.
But we always, I mean, we live in a day and age of technology where glitches happen constantly, and you can drive yourself crazy.
Yeah, we're in Mercury retrograde right now.
Yeah, I know.
This is what it is.
Somebody else said that to me. Oh, you're in Mercury retrograde. No wonder the bank messed up. And I'm like, yeah, no.
I know.
I
As
know.
you
But
can use it for what. But
yeah,
you're right
whatever
about
reason.
the breathing. And I have learned, me personally, going through my own, when I started this, it was because I'm an investor. I'm in these rooms and I'm usually the only woman in there. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to get more women on board and I'm going to teach them what to do. And that was my noble cause. And then I started doing it, and I'm like, oh man, this is so much bigger than just learning finance and money and investing. This is deep internal work for so much more than just money.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to do both, and I had to do it on myself first. So you're
Hmm.
right. I mean, I've learned so much. I've breath work and all of these learning how to listen to my body. You just talked about the I Ching and all of it at 40. 6, I think I've started figuring out that it's not all up here on the right side of my brain. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's an entire system here that I have been ignoring. And now I got to wake it up so that we can do this whole thing together. And
Yeah.
I
No.
think that's a lot of what your book talks about. And, I've been doing this for a while, and you asked me to read the book and write one of the quotes for it. And I'm reading it and I'm like, yep, I've talked to Carrie. This is good. This is good. And then I read a section and I was like, oh, damn, she got me. I didn't even know it. And it's just proof that the work is always work. There, you're going to dig a little bit more and dig a little bit more and dig a little bit more. And you talked about the woman who was ashamed of her trust or her inheritance. I can't remember which it was, and that she didn't like to talk about it 'cause she had shame about just being given money. And that has come up for me a couple of times. I'm not a trust fund baby, but my parents did really well. They had corporate jobs in the 80s and 90s, which at that time was great because you had the perfect retirement at the right time and they invested very well. And now they are living off of those retirement plans. Their 401k, they're living off the interest. Great. And they've set it aside so that my brother and I are going to have a decent inheritance one day. I don't have it now. But that has been thrown in my face by a couple of people. Like, you don't have to worry about anything because your parents have money. And I have a lot of shame about that. And when I read that in the book, I was like, oh, I don't like that. I don't
Yeah.
like that. And I pride myself on never having asked them for a thing. Right after I got divorced, I hadn't even been divorced. I was separated for 2 months. I found a house flip I was going to do. I was $2,000 short of the down payment. So I asked him for it. Now, I buy houses with no money out of my pocket, but I finance it to where I get it back at closing, right? Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and so I was like, I just need this $2,000 to close. I will give it back to you at closing. Like, I do not want to ask them for anything. And they were like, no, don't give it back. And I was mortified, mortified. And your book brought that out very clearly. And I was like, damn, I'm not perfect. I don't have it all figured out yet.
Listen, what you're just saying to me is everybody has their stuff. Nobody gets out of this place unscathed. We we all have our stuff. I don't care, the wealthiest, the poorest. We all have it. Can I address what you're talking about though? Is
Please,
that okay?
I
All
need all
right.
the help I can get.
First of all, I take real offense when people just feel like they can make a comment about where you are in life. They don't know me. I live in a beautiful home in Santa Barbara, and you wouldn't believe what some people say.
I'm
And I
sure.
remember when I have a housekeeper, okay? You want me to have a housekeeper. I'm a terrible housekeeper. I'm looking at my office thinking, I got a dust in here.
Yeah.
It's like I'm terrible. So we have a housekeeper. And the second time, she's been with me now 5, 6 years, but the second time she was here, she said, "Oh, how many people live in this house?" And I said, "Just me and Simon." "Oh." I said, "Problem?" She said, "There are 6 of us living in a 2-bedroom apartment." Now, my house is 3,600 square feet. If Simon and I didn't have all this space, we would kill each other. It's just the fact of life.
Yeah.
I need space. I am fortunate that I changed my money story from poor and destitute, where we didn't have food on the table for a while I was growing up, to having this beautiful home in Santa Barbara. I'm grateful for it every day. But I started working with the housekeeper, and she actually just this year finally raised her hourly ask. And she was clumsy on how she did it, but she did it. And I work with people all the time who are afraid to believe that they can change their money story. And so they project on the
Mhm.
people around them. They compare themselves to
Yep.
other people. They, when you live in a place like Santa Barbara, and I know you moved to San Diego, right?
Yep.
La Jolla is one of my favorite places, and I used to long to be able to afford to live in La Jolla. I never thought I'd be able to afford to live in Santa Barbara, but at the time it was actually a lot less expensive than living in Mill Valley where we were. So California has a little bit of a different issue when it comes to the cost of housing and all that.
Oh, yeah.
But I have found that people who, and especially in California, because there's such a divergence between the haves and the haves, have-nots. I don't know whichever
Hmm.
way the arms go. That the people that don't have it look at others sometimes with disdain and sometimes with anger and rage. And I say to them, what would you like to have? Because that's the other key thing. Not everybody wants to be a millionaire. That takes a whole different level of responsibility.
Sure.
Having a house in Santa Barbara this size takes a lot of responsibility and a lot of cash flow. You have to have a lot. There's a lot of expenses here that you don't have in a two-bedroom apartment. Do you want that lifestyle? That's the first question. And just because the newspapers say, or we're Americans, so with the American dream says you must own a home, or you must have,
Not
again,
anymore.
I want that rule book. Where is
Right.
it? Where is it? Is it in stone somewhere? I've never seen this rule book, but it's been drilled into us. And so when we can't meet that standard, our self-esteem drops and then we project it onto other people. Whereas I hope you are grateful for the great fortune you have that your parents have thought this through.
Mhm.
Listen, my parents didn't think anything through. And I don't know, you didn't read Life Rewritten, but in it I said I had a choice to make. When I realized that why my parents were the way they were based on their inherited stories
Mhm.
and back and forth and when you look at the whole generational side, I understood completely why my parents were the people that they were. The thing that pissed me off was, why didn't you do something about it? I could have continued on the same pattern. It was very easy. It was mapped out for me.
Yeah.
It was
Hmm.
there. But I made the decision to get to work and shift that pattern. And then I got angry and said, well, why didn't you guys do it? Did you not love me enough? Was I not enough to make you want to be different people? And then I said, all right, you can spin that wheel forever.
Yeah.
So you need to make a choice. Can you forgive them and even have some compassion for them? Not everybody is going to make the same choices, but don't let their lack of interest or you don't know how emotionally upset and distraught they were that maybe they really couldn't. You got to
Right.
give them that. They'd been gone a long time before I came to these conclusions. They died fairly young. When you can see that other people make their choices and you can forgive them, feel gratitude. I always hate and that people say you're so blessed because that means I'm the scum of the earth. If
Right.
you're blessed, I've got
I'm
to
from
be
the
the
South.
scum.
I know what that means.
Yeah, I've got to be, yeah, bless your heart.
Bless your heart.
I know what that means too. It typically means back the F off.
Yeah.
But when people say, oh, they're so lucky, that implies that I'm unlucky. Luck has nothing to do with it. But you
Yeah.
see how all these comparisons and all these things get dumped on you. I'm sorry that happened to you. I really am.
It happens to everybody. People make assumptions about you, regardless of whether they know what your bank account looks like or not. And that's one thing. So I've talked about this before. When you're in that position, no matter where you are on the scale, if you're looking up, you're simultaneously judging and jealous at the same time.
Absolutely. Envy is deadly.
Yeah. You're judging them for having it and you're wanting it at the same time. Whether you admit it or not, you want part of it. Now, I want to draw a line in the sand because we're seeing a lot of, or I am, we've got the eat the rich and the billionaires that everybody hates right now, and that's fine. there's a lot more to it than money. Let's just say
Mhm.
that. The money's not the problem. The money magnifies the problem.
Yeah.
So I'll say that right there. And which is why I'm so adamant about my mission for women to control capital. And there are women that are going to do bad things with it too. I'm not saying that women are ultimately better, but we have a different mission overall
Mm.
when it comes to controlling capital. So that's why I am the way I am. But also, to go back to your point about your housekeeper,
Mhm.
people feel a lot like I shouldn't have as much because other people don't, or I shouldn't
Mhm.
have what I have
Mhm.
because other people don't have. You having less doesn't help them at all.
Mhm.
How does that help them? What you need to do is go out and have more so that you can do something that will contribute, produce, elevate. You can have philanthropy. You can do whatever it is that you want to do that you think will help.
Well, as a housekeeper, she needs me to have more, otherwise I can't hire
You can't
her.
hire her. Exactly. That's what I don't think people get. And I do think, as I read a book, and I can't remember who wrote it, We Should All Be Millionaires. It's fantastic. And she's like, hire the nanny, hire the housekeeper, do all the things because you know what? Your way to make money is helped by that. Their way to make money is helped by that. This is creating opportunity for you and other people. It makes your family better. It makes all this stuff better. It,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's if you want an income stream, you need to
yeah,
be with people who have big homes in Santa Barbara that you can clean.
yeah,
If that's your path, if that's the
right.
job you set out for yourself, you don't, there's no judgments here. I don't care if you want to have billions of dollars
No,
or just have enough to do certain things. Financial freedom just means choice. It doesn't
exactly.
mean you have $1 million. It doesn't mean you have 2 million. It doesn't mean you have $50. Financial freedom just means choice. It can mean more, but I'm just going to simplify it for this conversation. But we put everything you're talking about today is about all the weight we have put on money. This poor little thing that doesn't even exist and it's just an exchange of value for value, we have blown it way out of proportion. And that's why I wanted to do Money Rewritten next because it does affect our health. Look at the healthcare costs. Look at how when you go to if somebody just told me when they went through bankruptcy 10 years ago, and when they were in bankruptcy court, 3/4 of the people there were about health. They had had a health crisis, no insurance, they couldn't pay the bill, and they went to bankruptcy court. And that creates this cycle that hospitals charge more because they anticipate they have some formula that says everybody we serve about, depending on the procedure, they have a formula that says how many are going to bulk on the procedure. So they pad their expenses so they can cover the losses that they're going to have to absorb. And it's like, do we not see that we created this system that's bringing us down? You know,
Right.
this doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. And I'm like, everything's broken and it's becoming more glaringly
Yeah.
obvious.
Yeah.
And it's going to self-correct somehow.
Yeah. No, I believe that. I'm not sure how, but it has
Yeah,
to because it's really been exposed to how inefficient it is and how like you said broken it is.
yeah. You talk about the emotional piece of it too. I have not been well versed on digital currency, admittedly. It wasn't a
Hmm.
thing I got into, and I interviewed someone who owned a jewelry business, and she was great, and she was doing all this stuff, but we started talking about Bitcoin. She's super into Bitcoin, and I was like, well, I want to learn more about this. So we did a whole episode on Bitcoin. We talked about it. And then I hadn't put it out yet, but I immediately went that day and I bought Bitcoin because I was like, oh, I'm going to get into this. And then by the time I was a week before when I was getting ready to publish the episode, because I have to do it ahead of time, Bitcoin had gone way down. So I did this intro and outro. I'm like, okay, well, I bought the Bitcoin. It went down. I lost money, but this is how it works. Blah, 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 blah. Today, the episode came out. Bitcoin's gone back up. So I'm just like, you can't make these decisions emotionally. You can't assume short term, these unicorn stories you hear, these short term, like wins. That's not how this works. And you've got to be able to ride the. I'm like, I can't time this the right way to give even good advice on this stuff. Just having that regulation around this stuff and understanding how money works, even though you and I both know it's this, and we said, both of us, it was funny when we first met. I said, money's an imaginary construct. And you're like, yes, it is. But it's that exchange of value for value. And like, who sets the value of a Bitcoin? Nobody even knows what that is. It's some electronic thing. It's so mind blowing.
But see, that's the whole point. Money is exactly that. It's mind-blowing. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's a digital coin that has no value except what we put on it.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
And yet it's this hot thing. It's like the stock market. If
It's the
anyone
same
could
thing.
please explain the stock market to me. I
Same
don't
thing.
get it. I don't
Same
get
thing.
it. I mean,
Somebody one day decides that this thing is the thing and it goes, and then somebody decides it's not the thing, and then the herd mentality.
yeah, goes with it. I know it's crazy. It's crazy. I luckily because I have no interest in understanding it, but I am so fortunate that I have met people like you that I can call on. The key here is not putting so much weight on it, trying to disentangle all of the emotions and all of the mishigosh, for lack of a better word, mishigosh you have
Mhm.
around money, because that's what thwarts your relationship with it. And I know you've heard me say your relationship with money equals your bank account. And if you think about the relationship you have with your friends, do you want to be friends with people? Do you think people are going to want to hang around you if you're calling them every day and saying, "How are you? What are you doing? Are you coming over? What are you doing? I really miss you. We haven't talked in ages." No, they're going to be like, "Back off, dude." And if you say to somebody, "I hate you. I don't want you around. You drive me crazy." That's not going to work for a friendship. So think about the friendship you have with your best friend, how you sit down, have a glass of wine, you laugh, you joke, you have fun. I tell a story about how I was at a metaphysical workshop and the prompt was personify money.
Mhm.
And I said, all right, I wonder what will happen here. Well, this big lumbering guy shows up and he sticks out his very meaty hand and he says, "Hi, my name is Bill." And I said, "You're kidding." I started laughing. And when I started laughing, he got smaller. He lost a lot of the weight. And I was like, all right, you're telling me I put too much weight on money. Bingo. And he got smaller and smaller. So I decided to have this relationship with Bill, which I thought,
That's hilarious.
can you just not, I don't know where these visualizations come from,
Very punny.
yeah, exactly. I thought, but it worked. It made me realize that I chase money. I think about money. I worry about money. I demand money. I'm afraid of money because, oh my God, is somebody going to take it from me once I get it? All of that. It affects your nervous system. So,
Yeah.
how in the heck? Can you imagine if we felt that way about air? Nobody would be able to breathe. Our
Oh,
lungs would be constantly tightened. And what's the difference between air and money? If you had that same relationship with oxygen, we'd all be suffocating. Oh my God, what if I don't breathe today?
oh my
What?
God. I've heard the personification. I've heard the dating money
Yeah,
story, but that right there, that's
yeah.
it. That's it.
Think about it. I mean, this is how my brain operates, Amanda. And that's why I'm writing these books. Maybe this is my
That's your
therapy
therapy.
ultimately. But these are the kinds of things I think about. I wonder about them because I don't know how to fix a lot of the broken problems we have in the world, but I do know what we've been doing ain't working.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking for new ways to think about things and encourage critical thinking and encourage a new perspective. And perspective is huge in
Hmm.
storytelling. Who is telling the story and why? What's their point of view on this story? And so when you can shift these things, when your inner world shifts, your outer world changes.
Yes. Yep.
And it's the same with money. You can have as much or as little as you want. You don't have to become a billion trillionaire. You don't have to even have $1 million. Have what you're comfortable with.
Right.
Like I
Yep.
said, financial freedom is what you need. Anyway,
It is choice. I agree with you 100%. It's optionality, it's choice.
yep,
And it's living the life that you desire.
yep.
I've loved this conversation. I always love talking to you. I'm going to release this the day after your book comes out. Tell people where to find it. I'm going to put the links in the show notes, but tell them where to find you, where to find it, where to find your workshops, everything.
First and foremost, you can find all of that on carriekcwest.com, my website. And that's the KC is spelled like KC, not KCASEY.
Yeah.
So it's carriekcwest.com. And the books will be on Amazon. In fact, they're just about ready to go. I'm looking for one more piece of detail to get them out there. But yeah, we have hardcover, softcover, and digital, so they're all there. I haven't done the audiobooks yet, guys, so hang in here with me. I'll get to that. It's one more thing on my plate.
I know. Just add it to the list. That's what I keep telling people. I'm like, it's on the list. I'll get to it on the
Yeah.
list. On the list. Well, awesome. As always, love chatting with you. I look forward to doing all the things with you, whatever it is that we come up with. It's always fun.
Good.
So thank you for joining us today. It's a conversation that needs to be had over and over again until it sticks, I think.
Yeah, that's why we're here.
That's why we're here. All right. Well, thanks, Carrie.
No problem.
All right. Well, that is a wrap on my conversation with Carrie West. And honestly, I could have kept going for another hour. Now, there's a line she said that I want to come back to. Your relationship with money equals your bank account. I want you to sit with that for a second. Again, her book, Money Rewritten, dropped yesterday, March 10th, and it is available now on Amazon, hardcover, softcover, digital. I will drop the link in the show notes along with how to find her at carriekcwest.com. And if something in this conversation hit different, that is probably the thing worth paying attention to. That's where the real work starts. All right, guys, I'll see you next week. And until then, keep building.
If this lit something up, share it, review it, and get in the room. Join the Expand Your Empire community and start turning wisdom into wealth. You're not too late, and you're not doing this alone.